All right. So once again, a very good evening to you, and thank you for joining today's class. How was the 2 days break? As we begin today is Sunday, and apparently we have a clash of time between network defense and ethical hacking class. So we will try to find a way to reshuffle so that by next week, we will not have that clash again. Thank you very much. Today, we'll be looking at Module 3, Access Control, and of our network defense. And after that, we will be able to look at packet tracer activity for the event. We'll be looking at packet tracer activity. I gave you an assignment. I want to believe you must have done it. So we will look at one of the packet tracer activity. Thank you very, very much. So before I continue, I need to be sure that you can hear me. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, let me know. And we continue. Can anyone hear me? Okay, I see a message. Oh, yes. So I've gotten confirmation that you can hear me. All right. So access control. Remember, network defense is basically the aspect that helps you to defend your network against unauthorized access, against threat actors. By doing this defense, you are protecting your network. So one of the ways is through what we call access control, and we will be looking at how to configure and secure access on a host. And then we'll be looking at access control concepts, where we'll explain how access control protects data. We'll also look at account management, where we'll explain the need for account management and access control strategies. Then finally, we'll be looking at what we call the AAA usage and operation. Now, I have gotten a request from some of you as per the aspect of network fundamentals, that a number of you are new in this field and you would need some assistance when it comes to network fundamentals. And you don't need to worry. After this particular training sessions, we are going to set up a particular training, particularly on network fundamentals, particularly, let's say, network basics, IP address, configuring network, some basics and fundamentals that you need to know about network. So, but for now, let's keep focused so that we can be able to cover what we have. Now, for us to get the access control protected, there are what we call the physical access control and the logical access control. The physical access control includes the physical things that actually creates like a barrier or protects or prevents people from having direct access to that particular system, or direct access to the server room or to the switch room or to the network room or wherever your facility is located. So that's the physical access control. And the goal is to prevent unauthorized users from gaining physical access to facilities, equipments, and other organizational assets. We have some examples of access controls include, guard monitor, of the facility, where you put a security guard to monitor that particular facility. We have a fence to protect the perimeter, where you create a fence around your facility so that unauthorized access should not be granted. Then motion detectors to detect moving objects. That's where sometimes you put, some sensors around your facility. Sometimes it could be in the server room, or it could be within the environment and things like that. So once there's a sensor, there's always an alarm. Then we have laptop locks to safeguard portable equipment. There are desktop servers, laptops, and how you can lock them to maybe your rack, or you can lock them to your rack so that it cannot easily be taken. Then you have locks on the door to prevent unauthorized access. And this particularly involves, let's say, you do biometric access or whatever it is you do. Then you have swipe cards, staff ID cards, student card, organizational cards that people will swipe in order to gain access. Then you have what we call guard dogs to protect the facilities. Then you have video surveillance cameras like CCTV that provides surveillance and recording of those facilities. Then you have what we call the man-trap style entry system to stagger the flow of people into the secure area and trap any unwanted visitors. Then you have the alarm to detect intrusion. Now, these items that we have just itemized basically help you to ensure somebody does not physically gain access to the equipment. So how about the logical control? Logical access control are the hardware and software solutions used to manage resource and system, manage access to resource and system. Okay, and these technology-based solutions include tools and protocols that computer systems use for identification, authorization, and accounting. This is what we call AAA: authentication, authorization, and accounting. Okay, when we say authentication, what do we mean? It has to authenticate the user by checking your username and your password. Okay, you will have to log in with the username and password. That's what the authentication means. Authorization is to authorize you to access certain resources, probably by virtue of your level, maybe your position in the organization. There are certain resources you're permitted to access, and there are those you cannot be able to access. That's the authorization. Then the accountability is where it keeps logs. You understand? Keep logs of everything that you do, so that in case of forensic audit, network audit, you can actually get the whole of who logged in, who gained access, and things like that. So that is AAA. We'll talk a lot about it much later. Now, examples of this include encryption. And encryption actually means you are converting plain text, to encrypted messages, right? Then you have your smart cards that have embedded microchips. You have your passwords and protected string characters. You have your biometrics. You have your access control list. We are going to be talking about access control list. All right. Basically, when we get there, we'll talk about it. Then you have protocols, a set of rules that governs the exchange of data between devices. Then you have your firewall that prevents unwanted network traffic. Then you have routers that connect at least two networks. And then you have intrusion detection system that monitors a network for suspicious activity, clipping levels, and setting allowed thresholds for errors. So these are certain things that logically are used. When we say logically, they are just hardware and software. They are not like physical barriers, like where we saw in the physical setup. Then we have what we call the administrative access control. So you see, in the physical, it deals with creating access barrier to those. And then in the logical, It has to do with solutions, both hardware and software, that are used to manage access, to those resources. But for the administrative control are basically policies and procedures. Policies and procedures defined by the organization, implemented to enforce all aspects of controlling unauthorized access. So the policies usually are focused on the personnel and the business practice. When we say personnel, we're talking about the staff that works there, or we're talking about the individuals that require access to the resources. Okay, so that's the administrative control. And we have a lot of examples. We have policies that you set up, and policies basically are just statement of intent. Then you have procedures, are the detailed steps required to perform an activity. Then you have hiring practices, define the steps an organization takes to find qualified employee. Okay, for instance, you want to employ an employee, you bring out some steps or guidelines to follow in order to get one. Background checks, is also a policy that you can set up before you employ someone. Then data classification and things like that, how to classify your data, you could set it up as a policy. Security training to educate your employees about the policies and practices. All these are administrative stuffs. So if you are taking this course and in your organization, there are no policies, there are no guidelines, there are no administrative controls to some of these particular facilities, then you'll be able to take note from here. Okay. All right. Then the concept of administrative access controls involve 3 security services. Like we talked about, we have the authentication, we have the authorization, and then our accounting. We're going to focus on these 3, basically, okay? So when we say authentication, what does it mean? First of all, it verifies the identity of each user to prevent unauthorized access. So this verification is very important. So sometimes, in your organization, you use there's what they call captive portal. Okay, when you want to log in, when you want to connect to the network, it brings like a page. It says enter username and password. What that means is that that's just the portal that collects your username and password, but there is a machine or a service somewhere, like a database, that verifies the details you submit. For instance, there's what they call Active Directory. All right, it does that. There's what they call LDAP. It does that. There are different database arrangements. It's what they call radio server that you can set up to be able to do this authentication for you. Okay, so the users prove their identity with a username or an ID. All right, in addition to users need to verify the ID they provide maybe like a password or something like that. That's for the authentication. Then for the authorization, like we said, the authorization determines which resource the user can access. Which resource can the user access? And at what level can the person access that? That's the authorization. So you have a system, you can permit user, if you enroll a user, you can say, okay, you can access finance, you can access administrative, but you cannot access maybe hostel, you cannot access this and things like that. So based on the employment or the job description of the person, then you define that. Some systems accomplish this by using access control list, and like I said, we're going to be talking about access control list very soon. All right, so that's the authorization. Then the accounting. All right, in the accounting, it keeps track of what users do, period. all right? It keeps track. And the way it does that is by keeping logs, all right? So what it keeps including a track of how the person was able to access, the amount of time the person accessed the resources, and if the person have made any changes on that particular resources or on that particular network, they know that. So cybersecurity accounting services track each data transaction and provide audit results. So system administrators can set up computer policies to enable system auditing. Cybersecurity accounting tracks and monitors in real time. So that is basically how it does. So the concept of the AAA is very, very, very powerful when it comes to authentication. What then is identification? All right. Identification enforces the rules established by the authorization policy. Each time or every time access to a resource is requested, the access control determines whether or not to grant or deny that particular access. So a unique identifier ensures the proper association between allowed activities and the subject. So a username is the most common method used by to identify a particular user. So for instance, in a school, you can say matric number could be a username, or in an organization, you could say the staff ID, or you could say the email and things like that. So you pick something that is very unique to the user, all right? So usernames can be alphanumeric combination of pins and things like that, all right? So, but whatever it is something that can be used to identify that. Now, there's another concept called the federated identity management. Okay, the federated identity. What is this? It basically refers to multiple enterprises that let their users use the same identification credentials to gain access to the network across all enterprises in the group. Now, what does it mean? Forget about the big English. What it simply means is, let's say a company that has branches everywhere in the country, even outside the country, okay? Let's say maybe a bank, let's say maybe UBA, or let's say MTN, or let's even use the educational system. Let's say the universities around the world have decided to say, okay, we are going to create a way to identify staff and students, which they have actually done. They have created what they call a federated system. What is this federated system? If a staff of a particular institution, let's say Unilag, decides to travel to maybe University of Maiduguri, and the staff wants to use the internet access in University of Maiduguri, the staff does not need to go and start asking for permission. All he needs to do is check their Wi-Fi. If he sees what they call Edu Room, if he sees Edu Room is a federated identity. Then he will click and then it will ask him username and password. Now, what does it do? The same username and password he uses in Unilag is going to be the same username and password he will use here. Why? Because EduRoma has been configured to have a centralized a handshake between institutions when it comes to their authentication. So the concept of this federated identity management it comes in maybe when organizations, you travel from one country to another, from one branch to another, and you want to access the resources in another branch, okay? Then you just use your same credentials. So unfortunately, this broadens the scope and increases the probability of a cascading effect, should an attack actually occurs. So a federated identity links a subject electronic identity across separate identity management systems. such as being able to access several websites using the same login credentials. Okay? You know, I don't know whether you have heard about what they call single sign-on. Single sign-on is one other way. Okay, you can call that one. So from the individual user's perspective, this means a single sign-on to the web. It is imperative that organizations scrutinize the identity information shared by the partners. So if I'm having, let's say, a Gmail account, I want to check my mail, I'll use my Gmail account. If I want to check my OneDrive, same Gmail account. If I want to access any resource within Google, I use my Gmail account. If I want to access YouTube, I use my Gmail account. Why is it so? Because Google have created a federated identity management, a single database that all users, are in. Okay, so that is it. Authentication methods, we have talked about this, where you use your username and passwords to do that. All right. You can also use smart cards. You can use biometric scanners and things like that. Then let's go to another one called the multi-factor authentication. Now, the multi-factor authentication is just trying to point out the fact that you can use two elements, one main element and a verifying element to identify yourself. So what it does is it uses things like password or something to have, for example, this can be taken a step further by adding something you are used to, maybe a fingerprint or maybe an eye scan or maybe a code or a token sent to your phone and things like that. So two-factor authentication is a method of multi-factor authentication that entails two factors, but the two terms are often used interchangeably. Okay, so for instance, I want to log into my Zoom account. All right, I will enter my username and my password. That is one factor. And then once I enter that, it will now send me another authentication to my phone. Then I'm going to enter the code like a token. The same goes to Gmail and Microsoft and things like that. So two-factor authentication is very, very important. So we have done authentication. Now, authorization. Authorization controls what a user can and cannot do on the network. Like we said, it defines the kind of things that is permitted to do. So it uses a set of attributes that describes the user's access to the network in order to answer questions. Okay, in order to answer a question about what to read, what to copy, what to edit, and things like that. All right, so that's authorization. So sometimes you see a document, you discover that you cannot download. You don't have the authorization. Sometimes you see it says you cannot edit, it's read only. All right, sometimes you can read and write. Sometimes you can read and write and download. So all these things are authorizations that are being given. Then accountability. What is accountability? Like we said, just to trace an action back to a person or process making this change to the system. That's all. And that accountability is used for reporting and for auditing. Okay. So implementing accountability consists of technologies, policies, procedures, and education. So log files provides detailed information based on these parameters chosen. So part of the details that they collect is what do you call it now? Maybe IP address, and maybe the timestamp from what time you log in to the time you log out. and then it provides what resources you access, how long you spent on each of those resources, and things like that. It provides all those details. So that is the accountability. Let's look at the concept of access control. That's what we call the zero trust security. The zero trust security. You know, when they say zero trust, it means that don't trust anybody. Act as if you don't trust anybody. That's just what it means. It's a comprehensive approach to securing all access to network applications and environment. Okay, this approach helps secure access from users, end user devices, APIs, Internet of Things devices, microservices, containers, and more. A zero trust security framework helps to prevent unauthorized access, contains breaches, and reduce the risk of attacks, internal movement throughout the network. Traditionally, the network perimeter, which is the edge, was the boundary between the inside and the outside trusted and untrusted network. So in a zero trust approach, any place at which an access control decision is required should be considered a perimeter. This means that although a user or other entity may have successfully passed access control previously, they are not trusted to have access to other areas or resources until they are authenticated. So as you go into network security, don't trust any traffic. So far the traffic is coming in, zero trust. That's just what it means. The zero trust relies on three pillars. There's what they call the workforce, the workload, and the workplace. All right, these are the three pillars of the zero trust: the workforce, the workload, and the workplace. What are these? Now, for the workforce, it's trying to say that you don't need to trust all employees, contractors, partners, vendors. Why? Because these are the people who access the work application by using their personal or corporate devices. So it ensures only the right users and secure devices can access applications regardless of their location. That's the workforce. So workforce means that these people are authorized to have access to the system. Yes, they are authorized. But the device that they use and the service that they gain access to, you need to be able to streamline it. That's the workforce. For the case of the workloads, the pillar is concerned with applications that are running in the cloud, in data centers and other virtualized environments that interact with one another. It focuses on secure access when an API, a microservice, a container is accessing a database within the application. Now, for the zero trust of the workload, what it's trying to say is that this is logical. Okay, the first one is personnel, workforce. This one is more of logical, and logical in the sense that you have different services and they need to interact with each other. All right, these different services need to interact with each other. So as they interact with each other, sometimes they use APIs in order to interact, sometimes they use some other things, and sometimes they even share the same database. So if not, you are the one that created it. If there are workloads or services that are coming, that the data comes from elsewhere, you don't need to trust it. I mean, when I say you don't need to trust it, means that don't leave any stone unturned. Don't assume, no, it's a trusted area, traffic, that's all. Somebody may infect or drop a bug in one of the services in order to gain access to the central core. Okay? Then the last one is zero trust for workspace. This pillar focuses on secure access for all devices, including your IoT devices that connect to your enterprise network, such as maybe your your endpoints devices, your physical and virtual servers, your printers, cameras, and all whatnot. So any device that you have that connects to your network, don't have a general trust for all of them. You have to be security conscious in all of them. Sometimes it may be the operating system that may require upgrade or may be vulnerable. Sometimes may be hardware that may be vulnerable. Sometimes it may be the user that may be compromised or whatever it is. So you're not supposed to give the trust for that. So that's the concept of the zero trust when it comes to that. Now, access control modes. Organizations must implement proper access control to protect its network resources, all right, and information and system. Security analysts should understand the different basics access control models to have a better understanding of how attackers can break into their controls. Okay, so one access control model is the principle of least privilege. When you say principle of least privilege, means that when you are granting access to people in your organization, don't start by giving them the highest privilege or medium privilege. Give them the least privilege. And you will upgrade the privilege based on the need. As the need arises, then you will now upgrade the privilege. Okay? So a common exploit could be known because of privilege escalation. So vulnerabilities in servers or control systems are exploited to grant an unauthorized user a software process or higher level of privilege that they shouldn't have. So we have different models of access control. One of the model is what they call the discretionary access control model, or we call it the DAC. DAC, discretionary access control. Why do they call it discretionary? You know, this is the least restrictive model and allows users to control access to their data as owners of the data. DAC may use access control list or any other method to specify which users or group of users have access to the information. That is it for the DAC. Then you have the MAC, mandatory access control. This implies the strictest access. You see, the other one is the least restrictive. This one is the strictest access and particularly used in military or mission critical applications. So what does it do? It assigns security level labels to information and enables users with access based on their security level clearance. That is the mandatory access, right? So if you are not given the access to access certain classified document, you cannot be able to access it. Okay. Then you have the role-based access control. We call it the RBAC. Role-based RBAC. What does this one mean? Access decisions are based on individual roles and responsibilities in the association or in the organization. All right. So different roles are assigned security privileges and individuals are assigned to RBAC profiles. Now, what is the difference between this RBAC and mandatory access control? The major difference is that, you see, for the mandatory access control, it is not the rule for the access is not applied to a group. It's not applied to a group. It's not like they've created a group and say anybody we put in this group should be able to access this. No. The policy is applied to the document and the user. So the user is directly added to the document. That is what happens. But in the role-based, the policies are applied based on the role that the user is taking. So for instance, if the role is saying network administrators is a role, or they say system administrator is a role, they say cybersecurity analyst is a role, you understand? And then, or they will say support staff is a role. Now, all these ones are roles. So whoever they add to this role will have access to those services based on what was created. Okay, so that's how the role-based work. Then you have what we call the attribute-based access control. The attribute-based access control. This is ABAC. What does this one do? It allows access based on attributes or objects to be accessed. This subject user accessing the resource and environment factors regarding how the object is to be accessed, as such as time or day. Now, you see, all of the other ones, the policies are applied. Once it's been applied to you, then you can access it all through. But this one, the attribute, is concerned about when you can access it, or how long you are permitted to access it. You could say you can only access it between 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, you can access it within that. That's the attribute. Or you can say you can only access it 3 times in a month. If you access the first one, you have remaining twice in a month. If you access, so it keeps down. So there are certain attributes that you give. Or you've heard about, in some cases, they say once you access it, then it destroys the document. You know, so all these fall under the category of attribute-based. Then you have rule-based, RBAC, rule-based. Now, there are 2 RBACs. There's rule-based RBAC, there's rule-based RBAC. Now, in the rule-based, network security staff specify set of rules or conditions that are associated with access to data or systems. These rules may specify permitted or deny addresses or certain protocols and other conditions. Now, in this role, you could say that staff on level 1 or 2 cannot access files that are clearance of level 10 or level 5. Or in an organization, you could say staff that are in marketing, their IP address or their systems will not be able to access resources that are in accounting. Those in an accounting cannot access files that are in human resource. All right. Human resource cannot access files that are in production. You know, you can decide to create different policies and implement them in that. So then the last one is the time-based access control. All right. Time-based, which is tagged access to the network resources based on what time of the day. So you see, this have a relationship with attribute-based. All right, something like that. Now, so looking at it, we have the discretionary access control, DAC. We have the mandatory, so we have discretionary, we have mandatory, we have role-based, we have attribute, we have rule-based, and we have time-based access controls. All right. So the network access control systems, NAC. They support access management by enforcing organizational policies regarding the people and devices that are attempting to access the network. So NAC systems allow cybersecurity professionals to monitor the users and devices that are attached to the network and manually control access as required. Network access control systems provide the following capabilities: rapidly enforcing access policies that have been created for different operational conditions, recognizing and profiling connected users and devices to prevent malicious software on the non-compliant system, providing secure access to network guests, often through registration portals, evaluating device compliance with security policies by user type, device, and operating system, and then mitigating security incidents by blocking, isolating, or repairing non-compliant devices. Okay? All right, in continuation of the network access control, because BYOD means bring your own device. And what is this BYOD? You know, in those days in an organization, you just come and the organization will provide you the devices. The laptop you will use, the desktop you will use, everything you're going to use, the phones are going to be provided. And it is easier to control the security facilities. But with the BYOD, is saying that we have gotten to an age, technological age, that everybody can just bring everything that he has. You can buy a phone, come with it. You have a laptop, come with it. Whatever it is, you come with it. And once you come with it, we should be able to provide security, you know, even with those devices. The IoT devices that you have that connects to the network, all of them. Okay, so the network access control system is configured to enforce these organizational policies. The relevance policies are enacted to permit or deny network access according to a wide range of factors that the network access control systems detect on the device that are attempting to access. So without the network access control systems, it will be impossible for cybersecurity personnel to evaluate the thousands of devices that could attempt to access the network. All right. So the network access control is an important component of a zero trust security architecture that enforces security policy compliance with all devices and users that attempt to access the network. Okay. So let's look at account management. Account types. An organization should not share account for privileged users, administrators, or applications. When we talk about accounts, we're not talking about maybe your bank account. No, we're talking about profile accounts. You know, you cannot say you are creating a login account and you will say admin. Username is admin, password is admin or password. Then you will now give some number of people, maybe 2, 3, 4 people. Anytime you are logging into this, this is the username, this is the password. Okay, so this is not acceptable. That's what this point is saying. The administrator account should only be used to administer the system. All right. So, but the administrators should be created their own accounts. The main administrator account should be to administer the system, but the administrators create their username and password as they will use. If a user accesses a malware-infected website or opens a malicious email while using the administrator account, this will put the organization at risk. Administrators must be aware of the default group and user accounts that might be installed by an operating system. Knowing about this account will help an administrator decide which should be permitted and which of these accounts should be disabled. Default accounts such as guest or administrator accounts can be security risk in older systems as attackers are familiar with default settings. Just 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so the point we're saying is that default accounts such as guest or administrator accounts can be a security risk in older systems, all right? And to improve security, always replace the default accounts and make sure that all account types require a password. So this is to all your devices, whether they are your access points or they are your switches, your routers, your servers, your cameras, your biometric devices, whatever device that you have. Okay, these rules apply, all apply to them. Okay. It is important to properly manage accounts and maintain security. So on hiring a new employee, create an identity profile, register the employee's computer and mobile devices and enable access to the organization's network. As the identity provider, which is the IDP, the organization is responsible for authenticating the identity. Disable or deactivate any account that are no longer needed and retrieve any organizational data or application from the user's device. In fact, in some organizations, they give you this access when you're employed so that when you are going, they just disable your access and that is all. All right. So grant a user no more access than is necessary to perform assigned task. Okay. So the permissions we are saying you should grant the user is the least privilege unless the demand is needed. So use time of the day restriction to control when a user can log in. So all those things that we talked about. Cyber criminals target privileged accounts because these are the most powerful accounts in the organization, right? With elevated, unrestricted access to the system. Administrators use these accounts to deploy and manage operating systems, applications, and network services. Continuously securing and locking down privileged account is critical to the security of the organization. So regularly evaluate this process and adjust to improve. Okay. Now, organizations should adopt robust practices for securing privileged accounts. Identify and reduce the number of privileged accounts, which is very, very key. Enforce the principle of least privilege, which we have said earlier. Revoke access rights when employee leave or change, so you revoke. All right, so all this could be part of your policies that you're going to create. All right, eliminate shared accounts, very important. Okay, don't create an account and expect that multiple people will be having access. All right, secure password storage, automatically change privileged account password every 30 to 60 days. Okay, implement a process to change embedded password scripts, log all user activities, generate alerts for unusual behavior, deactivate privileged accounts, disable inactive privileged account, use multi-factor authentication on all administrative access, and implement gateway between end users. Very, very important. This also goes to file access, right? You want to gain access to a file, permissions, you have to give access to that. So, and the permissions could either be full access, or you can give them to modify, or read and execute, or write or read. When you say read, the person can only see the content but cannot modify. When you say write, the person can read the content and make some small changes, all right, and things like that. Okay. Let me see. All right, so let me go back. Good. All right, so now account policies in Windows. I want us to just look at that briefly. Then we'll look at the packet tracer activities. Maybe let's look at it before we come down here. Yes, we're here. So let's look at it briefly. Then we will come here. Now, in the packet tracer activity, this is the activity I gave you, one of the activity. This is activity 3.1.14. Okay, for module 3, there are 2 activities there, 2 packet tracer activities for module 3. And then for module 4, there are about 4 to 5 activities. So for module 3, I'll try to see if we can do 1. If we have time to do all the 2, then beautiful. Then we will now close up and wrap up. Now, for this activity, we're going to configure the AAA. Remember the AAA we talked about? Authorization, authentication, authorization, and accounting. All right. So then we will also configure and use email services. We'll also configure and use FTP services. FTP services is file transfer protocol. Okay. Now, the background scenario says that authentication and authorization are distinct security processes in the world of identity and access management. Authentication uses passwords and other authentication methods to confirm that users are who they say they are. By contrast, authorization assigns user permission to those resources that the user is allowed to access. So in this packet tracer activity, you will configure authentication, authorization for network services, including wireless network access, email, and FTP services. Okay, so we're going to do that. Okay, somebody just hinted me that you cannot see my screen. Okay, so sorry about that. Let me do that all over again. Okay, so I believe you should be able to see it now. All right, so now it says note this activity opens in physical mode. However, if you can also complete it in logical mode. So most tasks in these activities are graded. So we can check the results and see. Okay. Then we go to part 1. Part 1 says configure the AAA authentication credentials. How do we do that? Let us, A says navigate to headquarters and then click the wiring closet. This is headquarters. We click the wiring closet. So this is the headquarters, right? This is the wiring closet. Headquarters. And you see the wiring closet here, this black one. You see where it says wiring closet. So I click it, it will open for us the rack. So you see there are 2 racks here. This is one rack, this is another rack. Okay. Now, where are we? It says on the right rack, click the AAA radio server. This is the right rack. So which one is the AAA radio server? So let me see. Look at it here. Okay. This is the AAA radio server. And then you see we should go to services tab and then AAA under services. So we go to services and then we go to AAA, right? C says turn on the AAA service. This is the service, so I will turn it on here. Okay. The moment I turn it on, you see my this thing came to 1%. All right. C say, okay, this is under the user setup. Under the user setup, add the following usernames and passwords. So where is the user setup? Let's look for the user setup. Can you see it here? Is the user setup. So we're supposed to add the user setups here. So this is user 1, and then this is the password. This is the password. Let me just copy here. Okay. Username, user 1, password. Add. Okay. And then user 2, password. This password here. Go to here. I think this is it. Then I add. Okay. See my points have increased here. Okay. Okay. And then step 2. Just a minute. Come in. Just a minute. All right. So we have entered our user passwords. Step 2 says configure wireless authentication on HQ laptop 1. Okay. So how do we do that? Navigate back to HQ and then click HQ laptop 1. It is located 2 rooms to the right from the wiring closet. So I go back. This is the wiring closet. So it's located 2 rooms to the right. So we're looking for laptop 1, HQ laptop 1. So this is it. HQ laptop 1. Yes, this is it. Good. So click the config tab and then under the interface, click wireless 0. So config tab, Then we click wireless 0. Okay. And then C says in the SSID box, we should type HQ INT. Okay. In the SSID, this is the SSID. So we should type, let me see. Okay. Did I copy it? Let me copy it. Paste it here. Right? Then it says in the authentication area, click WPA2, which is this guy here. Right? And then in the user ID box, enter user 1. User 1. In the password area, so this is the password we had created in the AAA server. So we're going to use it here to authenticate the laptop. Okay. Okay. And then F says in the IP configuration section, click DHCP. Okay. Desktop in the IP configuration section, click DHCP so that you should be able to get IP address. It will authenticate the username and the password, and then voila, see it has gotten us IP details. Okay. And then it says verify HQ laptop receives IP addressing in the assigned address. Okay, in the 192.168.50.0. So 192.168.50.3. So we are correct. That is what it said. So our completion is 16%, which is good. Then step 3, configure wireless authentication on HQ laptop 2. HQ laptop 2 is located on the top right corner of the HQ. Okay. Let's see, on the top right corner of the HQ. So I guess this. Now this is PC. Where's the laptop? There's a laptop here. Good. This is HP laptop 2. Repeat the previous steps to configure the wireless settings for HP laptop 2 with user 2 credentials. Verify HQ laptop 2 receives an IP address. So we're going to repeat what we did here. Right? So we will, let me copy this password. Okay, let me copy this SSID here, because that is what we did earlier. And then come to config wireless 0 under SSID. We paste it here. Then authentication, WPA2, username, user2, password thing, but we're going to change 1 to 2. Password, paste it, but here for 2. And then what else did we do? Okay. Then we came to desktop. IP configuration, DHCP, and we will wait to ensure we have IP. Good. So we have IP, correct. All right, so our completion is 26%. Good. So let's come down here. That means we have done step 3. Part 2 now says configure and use email services. Step 1, activate email services and configure email user accounts. How do we do that? We go to the wiring closet. This is the wiring closet. And then on the right side rack, the mail server. I think this should be the mail server. Yes, click it. It's the mail server. And then it says services tab and then email. Okay, so we go to services tab and then email, which is here. Then under services, email under service, good, we're there. C says turn on both the SMTP and the POP3. This is POP3, turn on, SMTP, turn on. These are mail protocols, all right? POP3 means Post Office 3 is a particular protocol that helps you to download the mails on your system, okay? SMTP is Simple Mail Transport Protocol that helps you to be able to send email out, okay? This is set up the domain to mail. So let's just copy it here, right? So where's the domain? Aha, see the domain here. Put the domain here. Good. Then under the user setup, enter the following usernames and password. Click the plus sign to add each. Okay. So I'm going to HQ. So let me just copy it to make it faster for us. Copy it. Oh, sorry. Here, paste. Also, no, I'm not supposed to copy all. Let me just, this one is supposed to be the password. And just cut it. Okay, so this is the password. Then we have entered for the first one. The second one is going to be HQ user 2. Put it this way. And this is the password, Cisco 123. And this special character. And I paste it. Added number 2. Then this is the third one. Then copy the password. This. Paste it here. Then, good. So Let's see what is the next thing to do. Step 2 says configure email clients. Navigate back to HQ and click the PC. So those of you who have done this as homework, I'm sure you will just find it as a walkover. For those of you who have done and had problems, we will solve it together. For those of you that did not do it, I will encourage you to go back and do it again on your own, okay? All right, so I say we should go back to HQ and click the PC1-1, which is on the bottom corner. PC1.1, we see bottom corner. I don't know, I think, is it this one? This is 2-3. What we're to put PC1-1. This is which one now? Okay, these ones are cheers. These are cheers. Okay. This is 2-2. This is 2-1. Where is the 1-1? No, it's not this one. Is it this? This is 2-3. So let's check them one after the other. This is 1-4, so it's somewhere around here. Let me start from here. This is 1-2. See, is this PC? One dash one. So we have seen it. This is 1-1. Good. So navigate to 1.1. Click desktop tab, email. So go to desktop tab, email. Then configure the mail settings to open. Remember, we have configured POP3, which enables us to be able to download mails or access mails. And we have configured SMTP, which will enable us to be able to send mails. Okay. So what do we do? All right. It says enter the following information. Under your name, we should put this. So let me just copy Suki. While I'm copying, someone may want to find out why am I always copying. I just don't want to make a mistake in the typo, so that our scoring will be accurate. Email address. This is the email address. Just copy. Paste it. Then incoming and outgoing email server. I'm going to copy. Copy it. So this is incoming mail server. The same thing we're going to put for outgoing mail server. And then the username. Remember the users we created for the mail. Okay, we created 3 users. So we're logging in one of the user. This is the password. Then we save. Okay. All right. So we have saved. Now All right, completion is at 49. Now, this says use the information. Scroll. It says use the information in the table to configure a mail setting for 2.3 laptop 1 and net admin and then PC 2.3. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's go into it. Okay. Let's go into it. So where is 2.3? This is 1.1. Let's see. This is 2.2. This is 2.1. Okay. 2.1. 2.2. So where is 2.3 now? Check here. Good. This is 2.3. Okay. This is 2.3. So under 2.3, under name, we're going to use this name. Okay. Under name, we'll use that name. I think we go to configure. Okay, so desktop, email, under name, and then under email address. Copy this. Paste it under incoming and outgoing server. We copy this. Copy this. Incoming mail, outgoing mail server. And then this is where we did username. We have to go back where we created the username for user 2. Okay, see. Okay, this is it. Okay, there was one other we're supposed to create, we didn't create. We created them. It's supposed to be 4 users. So, copy this under username. Copy this under password. Very good. So I can close this. So let me just quickly add this last user here. You know, it says under user setup, enter the following usernames. Okay. So we did that under the server, email server. This is the email. So you see we've entered this. We've not entered this one. So let me just enter it. States. Password. Okay. Right. Right. So where are we? Okay, we have done for 2.3. So we're supposed to do for HQ laptop 1 and then net admin. So where's HQ laptop 1? Let's see, I guess this should be it. HQ laptop 2. Okay, I think it's the first laptop we worked on. Should be this. Yes, HQ laptop 1. Okay, close this. Come to email. And laptop 1 under name. This is the name. This is the name. Under email address, this is the email address. Under incoming mail. Okay, copy it. Incoming mail. Outgoing mail, put it. And then under username, we come up here. I think this is this boardroom user 1. Sorry, let's copy it. And then paste it. And then this is the password. Copy it. And then we paste it. And then we save it. That's 66 completion. And then we can now do the last one, which is the net admin. Okay. The net admin PC. Is it laptop? So let's see where do we find it? This is HQ. Since the net admin PC is in the wiring closet. Okay. Is it this one? Yes, it's this guy. This is the net admin. So go to desktop, go to mail, and then we now enter the information. The name is going to be Cisco here. Let's copy it. Name is going to be Cisco. Email will be this. Copy. Okay. Incoming mail server. Copy it. Right. So outgoing mail server. Paste it. And then username and password. Let's come back to it here. Look at it here. Okay, put username here. And then we do the password here. So what we are doing so far is setting up authentication. We have set up the authentication. We're trying to do it also in mails so that we will be sure we are good. Good. So having done that, where did we stop? Okay, no. It says send an email to Suki So on PC 1.1, so let's go back here. On PC 1.1, compose an email. Okay, open PC 1.1 and click compose. So, okay, this is laptop. Where did we get the 1.1? Oh, this is it here. Compose. So we are composing now. Compose an email. Ajao at this. Okay. So let me copy the email address. So this is the destination. And then enter the subject and the email message of your choice. And then click send. So I will say mail test delivery from PC1-1. So say this is a delivery message. All right, they say click send. Where is my send? Okay, you see the send here. Right, so I have clicked send. I've sent the mail. It says when finished, packet tracer will take several seconds to converge before you see the send success message at the bottom of the window. Okay, so all right, so I think this is the success at the bottom of the window talking about. Okay, so notes. Let me see. Okay, I think that is it. We've gotten that. Note the packet tracer does not grade this step. Verify you correctly completed this step by receiving the email sent to secure on IOPC 2-3. So let's go to PC 2-3 and check. This is 2-2. This is 2.1. This is 1.1. 2.2. 2.3. So check whether he has received the mail. You can't see any mail here. Okay, so we need to check. This is 2.3 under mails. We're supposed to see a mail delivered. If the mail has not delivered, that means we got something wrong. So I'm going to check and see. We go to PC 1.1 and check. Got it. Okay, sending mail to BR this with the subject this delivery from this. Okay, it is still resolving. Okay, says it will show us a success. So we're waiting for the success then. The success message. Look at it now. That said send success. All right, so if it has sent success, let me see. Hope we sent to the correct PR user 1.3. Where's 2.3? Let me see. 3. So receive. Okay, pop 3, authentication failure. So maybe our authentication did not work for this one, 2.3. So we'll have to look at it. Okay. Let me be sure. Are we all together or am I the only one talking here? I don't know. Are we together?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All right. So thank you. All right. So we have a configuration issue in 2.3. We're not able to, where is it? So we're going to check the mail setup again for 2.3. See, is this 2.3? Yes, 2.3. So in that email, configure mail. So let us be sure the details are correct. Let me come back here. This is the email. This is the email. And then, yes, press. Where's the domain? The incoming, this is the mail server. Everything should be fine. The username, BR user1. Okay, let's check the username. Top. BR user1 and the password is this. So let's say BR user1. Password is this. This. All right, so if this is okay, should try and send a mail to, let me see, BR user2. Let me see. Press delivery to BR user2. Tests. So if I say send, authentication failure, SMTP authentication failure. Okay. But we have configured the SMTP. Okay. This is our mail. SMTP is our mail, outgoing mail. Okay, this is it, mail dot cyber this. Okay, let me see. PC has IP address. Yes, it has. Under config. Everything seems to be fine. Let's check our mail server. I think this is our mail server. Let's be sure. And email. This is email. This is the domain name. We have on mail servers. This is BR user 1, BR user 2. So I think we should be fine. Don't know why we are unable to reach. Okay, so let me try another one and see. Let me try this and see if we're also going to have the same error. Uh-oh, my battery is low. Wow. Oh, goodness Lord. This power issue, NEPA. Hey, excuse me, sorry. Let me go and get something to charge. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. All right, so I just want to quickly check. Let me check which ones did we configure? Did we configure this? I don't think so. I think we configured laptop 1. Let me see. It's laptop 1. Okay. So let me try to compose a mail to BR user 2. Okay. Test delivery. Okay. Okay. SMTP authentication failure. So I think the problem is for all of them. It's not just for the individual system. So let us check. Follow the instruction. Okay, so this is where they say we should compose this message, okay, which we have done. It says packet tracer may send several seconds before you see a success message at the bottom, which we saw. It says, no, packet tracer does not greet this step. Verify you are correctly completed this step by receiving the email sent by this on this. So we are supposed to receive it. Navigate to PC 2.2 if necessary. Check email. Click receive and read the message from this. So we are supposed to have received the mail, but we have not received the mail. So something is wrong. So I'll advise, let's go back small and check our email service, which is here. So we check our rack here, and then click the email server, the mail server, and services. So this is the mail server. and then services, and then we click email, and then turn on SMTP and POP3. This is SMTP, it's already turned on, POP3 is turned on, and then it says set the domain name mail this, which we did. Let me copy it. This is the domain name. Just put it again. Okay. So okay, so everything seemed to be fine. And then we're supposed to enter these users, HQ user 1. This is HQ user 1. This is the password. HP user 2. HQ user 2. This is the password. BR user 1. This is the password. BR user 2. This is the password. So I think what we have done here is correct. And then we're supposed to configure each client, and which we did. Navigate back to HQ, go to PC1-1. This is laptop 1. This is PC1-1. And then desktop email configure mail settings. So this is the name we got correct. HQ user 1 at mail.this, which we got correct. Email address we got correct. Incoming mail server we got correct. Username HQ user 1 got correct. Password. So we are fine here. Fine here. So problem is that mails doesn't go. I've sent this. Sent this. And it says send success. And who did we send it to? BR user 1. Looks like we sent it to ourselves. So because this PC is the BR user 1. Okay. So let me send it to no, this is HQ user 1. So we sent it from HQ user 1 to BR user 1, which is 2.3. So this is 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. And here we're supposed to receive, and it tells us POP authentication failed. So initially it was SMTP authentication failed. Now it's POP. Okay, receiving this plus this. So POP authentication failed. All right, so what we will do, I will take a look into it. We stopped at 70%. You can see we stopped at 70%. I will take a look at it to find out where we are getting it wrong, why it is failing. Then maybe we will continue tomorrow, by tomorrow's class, okay? So, but I want to find out if there's any question first. Any question so far? All right, so, okay, so I see that there are no questions. Okay. If there are no questions, we will call it a day for today. All right. There are no questions. We'll just call it a day for today. Then tomorrow we will meet and then we will continue from this. I will find out where the error is and then tomorrow we will continue. I will also find out, I'll discuss with the ethical hacking class and see if either we or them can make some small adjustment on our timing for Sunday so that we'll have no clash. So there's likelihood we may meet on Wednesday also. All right, so thank you very much for participating in today's session. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll be uploading the recordings, so you may wish to follow up later. Thank you.